test of line 8. And we were speaking about what it means where it says that Sheishes Yamin Te'asa Malacha. Why does it say that the work should be done? Well, it doesn't say Tase, you should do it, because the idea of Te'asa comes to tell you that the way a person has to do his work should be in a way of Yigia Kapecha Kisoichal Ashrecha V'Toiv Lach. It should be only the work of your palms, only your hands, because the brain and the heart has to be reserved for Elikus, has to be reserved for Torah mitzvahs, for davening and learning. And it's called Yigia, we said, because since he's not interested in it, since the work is not something that he does because of his interest is in davening and learning. And he can't wait. He's looking the whole time at the clock to see when his work is going to be over, so he should be able to learn, he should be able to daven. So therefore, it's considered Yigia Kapecha. It's considered something that he's putting toil in and putting in effort in, even though the work that he's doing it in a way, he's doing it in a way how it's supposed to be done, but still in all, it's called a Yigia for him. That's why it's called Te'asa, because it's only his power of action. It's like happening by itself. So once we understand the beginning of the pasuk where it says that Sheishes Yamim Te'asa Melacha, so now we'll understand this. The next part of the pasuk. We had a few questions about Shabbos, and etc. Mamsh Bakasov, and it continues in the pasuk. By Yom Hashvi Yilachem Kodesh Shabbos, and on the 7th day, it'll be for you holy, a Shabbos of Shabbos. Behind this means that when we have the introduction, that first there's the 6 days that the work will be done as if by itself, like in an automatic way, that he's not invested in. The Ozdafki by Yom Shabbos Shabbos, then it will come out on the 7th day, will be a Shabbos of Shabbos. What does that mean, a Shabbos of Shabbos, which is the question, one of the questions we have at the beginning of the Maimer. Chazal say, of Shabbos, whoever put in effort before Shabbos, he will eat on Shabbos. In other words, in the context of what we're talking about over here, whoever puts in a certain type of avoida in Ruchnius during the 6 days of the week, that will reflect what type of level of avoida he can reach on Shabbos. He explains on line 13, when the way he's acting during the 6 days of the week is not the way it should be. What does that mean, not the way it should be? Not that Chas Shalom is doing anything bad, but he doesn't have this attitude that we spoke about Teyasa. During the week, the way he's involved in his making a living is not in the way of the toil of his palms alone. He inserts in it and invests in it, also his brain and his heart, but Nasa taught it basic and becomes preoccupied with his business. Then also when he tears himself away temporarily from matters of the business and he wants to be involved in Torah and davening, so even then his mind is not, he can't unhitch his mind, he can't disconnect his mind. The foreign thoughts are creeping in and disturb his concentration. Not only in a gambase katoid about filan life place and machshavas binyane esek shachashma mashpal yoim, that because of his, not only what we said before, but that because of his involvement and devotion and complete preoccupation in the business. So even when he's trying to daven and trying to learn, so thoughts of the business fall into his mind that he was doing the entire day. In addition to that, that he's bothered by such thoughts, such foreign thoughts falling into him, that on his own he it's totally not on his level, totally beneath him, and so on. In other words, like this, let alone that what interferes and comes into his mind during davening and learning are thoughts that he had his mind was preoccupied with a whole day, that the fact that he was involved in something a whole day, so that impinges on his davening and his learning. So since he was thinking about his business a whole day, so now during his davening and learning, the business goes forward. But in addition to that, things that are completely inappropriate and things that are completely beneath him fall into his mind. The Rebbe is going to explain what's the relation. I understand that when I totally invest my brain and I have my heart into my business, then I can't like totally free my mind from it when learning and davening comes along. But why do now also fall into my mind during davening and learning thoughts that are completely inappropriate, thoughts that are completely beneath me? So the Rebbe explains in line 25, because he opened a doorway to foreign thoughts. When you open a door, then they try to squeeze in. As when Eftatir Spartan Zechayin in Yiddish says you open up a doorway, so they try to crowd in. So now, what is the result of such a week on Shabbos? How does the Shabbos follow when this is what his week looks like? Therefore, Gam Kasher Boyim Shabbos, also when Shabbos comes, and he really wants to take the opportunity to look into and to think into the glory of the King. He is incapable of doing so. This means not only does he not have the level of Shabbos. What does it mean, Shabbos? That's like it says, when he delights on Hashem, that his enjoyment of godliness, his enjoyment on Shabbos is based on the spirituality and understanding of godliness and so on. So not only does he not have that level of Shabbos and delighting in Elikus and so on, like I said before, he's trying to meditate on the glory of the King on Segeitnish. It's not working. Is additional to this top of page Yud, Shabbos down. Even on ordinary Shabbos Pamachas, even a one Shabbos, he doesn't even have a regular Shabbos the way that just a basic understanding and appreciation of godliness, not even a level of lisanig alavaya, a very high level of delighting in Hashem. He doesn't even have the freedom of thought and capability to meditate on Elikus in general. So, this also fits in what the Chazal said. A person should always envision himself on Shabbos as if all of his action is done. This idea that all of his action is done is possible to be only when his involvement of business is in the way of putting in the toil of your palms. He doesn't invest brain in his heart in the involvement of his parnasa, the involvement of making a living. That's what it means. Kol malachto asuya. How, in other words, how can a person free himself that when it comes Shabbos, he looks at himself, my work is done, even though he might be in the middle, because even during the week, the work that he's doing is not something that's completely absorbing. But if during the week he's completely preoccupied with his business, it's impossible that on Shabbos his mindset should be as if all of his work is done. And because of those business things that he did not conclude before Shabbos, so So now on Shabbos, he's also suffering from it. It's also bothering his mind and confusing him and so on. So therefore, how do we attain Shabbos? Attaining Shabbos and Kol Malach Chasuya b'Shabbos, that needs to start in the week, like we said initially. Kol mi shetarach b'erev Shabbos yochel b'Shabbos, line 10. V'rak kasher eitz kapanosu boifni yiyeh kapech. Only when his involvement in making a living is in the way of the toil of your palms. He's not preoccupied with it. That's where it says that 6 days the work should be done, like as if it's automatic. And then on the seventh day, when it comes Shabbos, then it's a Shabbos of Shabboses. What's the double expression of Shabbos? It's an idea of an increase of Kedusha. This is a very interesting thing. In truth, when a person has the Te'asim Malacha, that even during the week, it's in a way that he's like not preoccupied by it. So even in the week, he's already experiencing like Shabbos. So when Shabbos comes, it's a Shabbos Shabbos. Even during the weekday, he's in a level of Shabbos, in the Chayil, because he's not preoccupied with mundane activities. When Shabbos comes, and he's already been experiencing Shabbos during the days of the week, that's like the separate kedusha, Shabbos Shabbos, and so then becomes for him an additional holiness, an even higher way than what he experienced Shabbos during the rest of the week, because he is already during the rest of the week not preoccupied in workday things. So it becomes by him now on Shabbos a Shabbos of Shabbases. It's a very interesting understanding of the expression Shabbos Shabbosim, that the person can experience Shabbos throughout the week. So when Shabbos comes, so it's not just an ordinary Shabbos, it's a Shabbos of Shabbases. By the way, this also fits in with the idea that he spoke about before, that by davening during the week, if the person is preoccupied, he's not able to concentrate during davening, and we know that davening is the ha'ara of Shabbos in every day of the week. From the fields of Shabbos, it's oil during different fields of the week, it's oil into the fields of Shabbos. But the main thing is that we see that there is the Shabbos of every day of the week. Then when he is occupied his mind appropriately during the week, so that on Shabbos becomes an ultimate elevation, Shabbos Shabbos. Any questions before we go on to Oizdal?
I have a question.
Yes.
Especially nowadays, I mean, a lot of us are quote unquote knowledge workers where we have to really engage deeply to learn things.
Correct.
It's not like you can do it halfway,
Right. So the Rebbe in a different place, and it's very likely we even learned about this as well, but I definitely mentioned this, that the Rebbe accepts the fact and says, yes, there is this idea that at present time, people, I'm not sure they use the word at present time, but he said, even someone that has a type of work which involves their mind. So in other words, it's not like we're talking about in the olden days, where people were farmers, where people were shepherds, or where people were shoemakers or whatever, that they used just while they were working, they were saying Tehillim, like we have all the stories, or reviewing Mishnayos by heart, etc., etc. But at the present time, and also even then, he does use the term ASIC, he does use the word business. And business, it's a given that business is not just done literally with the hands. Business is the term that he's using constantly. ASIC is business. He's not saying malacha, which means, plowing the grass. He's talking about business. And business does involve the mind. But it's self-understood that even in business, there is what I need, the basics, what's important for the success of the business. And then there's when I'm just spinning my wheels and then just always looking for another another idea and another concept and so on. Like we mentioned before from the Tzemach Tzedek says, we need to calculate, what do I need to have to live from? And then I need to think, what is the normal amount of effort I need to expend to be able to reach that? And that's what I should expend. He doesn't say that you should put a limit on how much you want. Whatever you decide, you want $1 million, fine. Figure out what it takes to get to $1 million. But that's it. Don't say, well, maybe this will fall through my idea and I have to have in the back of my mind another idea. No, our job is only to give Hashem the kalim so that he should be able to put his brachas in. So I figured out an idea. I'm going to run with that. And when the time is up, I release my mind from that. I said, this is what I did. And I don't rethink it and I don't revisit it and I don't second guess myself. All of these things are preoccupations of the mind and especially of the heart. Perhaps we could also add to this the concept of heart. A person, just because they need to invest their mind, they're doing intellectual work, doesn't mean that their heart has to now be involved in it as well. Their emotions have to be involved in it. When the problem is, when the person gets emotionally invested in it, so then he's now second guessing himself. Maybe this is not going to work. I need to have plan B, plan C, plan D, plan Q, because who knows what will happen in the meantime. That's not my job. My job is to make a keli for Hashem. And as much as necessary to have the keli, that's where I'm going to use my mind. The rest, I'm going to leave up to Hashem. Okay.
It's not easy to do.
If it would be easy to do, the Rebbe wouldn't have to tell us in the Maimer all about it and the importance of it. Page Yud is Daled, line 18. So now we're going to get back to the point about when this was said. That this sivui on the Mishkan, when did Moshe Rabbeinu communicate this? We brought down from Rashi, we brought down from the Medrash, we brought down from the Zohar, that Moshe Rabbeinu communicated this to the Yidden, the mitzvah of building the Mishkan. There's a difference of opinion when Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu about the Mishkan, but when did Moshe Rabbeinu communicate this to the Mishkan? When was the beginning of our parsha took place? When did it occur by Wikehal Moshe that he collected all the Yidden? This was on the day after Yom Kippur, which Yom Kippur, we said, was the conclusion of the kapara for the Chet HaEgel, which means whatever we were talking about up till now, about the Asa Melacha, has to do with the tikkun of the Chet HaEgel. And we can explain how that is so. This matter was said on the morrow of Yom Kippur. After Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu on Yom Kippur, I have forgiven like you have spoken, like you asked me. Now began the actual repair for the sin of the Egel. Sin of Avodah Zarah, of idolatry. And the truth is, this is really reflects in our time as well. We are also in the process of fixing up idolatry. Why are we in the process of fixing up idolatry? So the Rebbe says in the brackets, so too in the time of exile in general, that we need to fix up the sin of Avodah Zarah. How come? Because of the sin of Avodah Zarah, that was the reason for the destruction of the first base of Mikdash. And we know all the Golus and all the destructions are linked to each other. So therefore, we are still also in the process of fixing up Avodah Zarah, just like Moshe Rabbeinu was giving the Yidden the instructions for the Mishkan on the day after Yom Kippur, which was part of the repair for the Chet HaEgel. Concerning this, it says, how does one repair the Chet HaEgel? It's through the fact that our involvement in Parnasa should be in a way that 6 days the work should be done, but they're in an automatic way. Question is why? What's the relation? Why, when we do work in a way that's automatic and not involving our brain and our heart and so on, does that undo Avodah Zarah? The Rebbe is going to drill down to what is the core problem with Avodah Zarah, and that's going to show the common denominator between that and how the person is preoccupied with his work. The idea behind this is the opinion of Avodah Zarah concerning Avodah Zarah Mevar. Rambam Toz, the Rambam explains the mistake of the generation of Enosh. The generation of Enosh says Oz Huchal Likrois b'Shem Hashem, that then they were Huchal Likrois. Huchal from the word Chulin. They started calling mundane things by Hashem's name. They said, since the Eibishter created these stars, Megalgalim, and he created these constellations, to run the world. Doesn't mean run the world literally. The sun, the moon, the stars, all these heavenly bodies contribute to how the world runs. Without them, the world wouldn't survive. From the sunshine that the crops get, from other things that the world runs. So the Eibishter put into place, if you will, natural bodies, aspects of nature by which the world continues. Since he made them and appointed them as, if you will, representatives to run the world for him, therefore it's appropriate to praise them and to give them honor. Behind this means the type of all types of flow that comes from above, that Hashem sustains the world, comes through intermediaries, through agents. Like it says, the sweetness of the crops come from the sun, and the sweetness of the either the barley that comes from the moon. The main thing is that we see from the pasuk that different heavenly bodies contribute to our physical sustenance and our physical existence. Though they are only intermediaries and it's not coming from them, it's coming from Hashem. They call them up and still in all Averis Hashpa Yodam, still in all. The Hashpa of Hashem is coming through them. So since they are agents of Hashem, therefore they made a mistake. They bow down to the sun, to the moon, because they believe this would be their means to bring it down in nature, that they would, this is the way of enclothing it in the garments of nature. What does this mean? This means that the generation of Enosh, the first generation that served idolatry, they also admitted that the Eibishter is the king of kings, but they took him up so high. They were saying how high he was, Melech Malcham Loch. But they called the Eibishter the God of gods, meaning there are minor gods to which Hashem uses as agents, and Shechshivu Aisam L'Metzias, and they considered those quote unquote minor gods, the sun, the moon, the stars, also have something of significance, and therefore they believe that they needed to be served as well. But the truth is, that one cannot consider them as an existence whatsoever, because they are no different than an axe in the hand of the wood chopper. No one's going to think of bowing down or serving or giving thanks to the axe. Why? Because it has no independence whatsoever. It's completely the wood chopper. If the wood chopper chops wood and gives you the wood, so then you thank the wood chopper. You don't also turn to the axe and say, by the way, thank you, axe, for doing it. The axe is not of any significance. Same thing, the fact that the sun, the moon, the stars are agents to draw down Hashem's hashpah in this world in the physical existence is nothing that we need to praise them for or thank them or serve them, because they do not have any more of an independence than the axe in the hand of the woodshop. And therefore, Mezem moving for this understood that what is considered the subtle form of avodah zarah. When you want to examine it and like strip it to its bare bones, when we give value and importance to the garments and the paradigms of nature. So by giving nature some type of importance and independence, and we thank and we recognize nature as some type of contributing force to our hashpah, that's what Avodah Zarah is about. Therefore, to counter that, how do we counter that in our daily life? We, Baruch Hashem, don't have the nisayon of Avodah Zarah in that type of way. Nobody goes ahead and bows down to the sun, the moon, the stars. But we also have to uproot any type of recognition of nature as some type of contributor to my hashpah. Line 11, therefore, how do we repair the sin of Avodah Zarah? Like we said, the day after Yom Kippur was the repair for Avodah Zarah, and also the time of Golus came as a result of Avodah Zarah, so we have to repair the Avodah Zarah. So how do we do it? When our involvement in business is in the way that it is done, it's something that not that you are doing, but in an automatic way, without the preoccupation of the brain and the heart. The idea of not having the brain and the heart preoccupied in Parnasa, that's the opposite of the idea of bowing down. What does bowing down symbolize? Bowing down is I'm bending my head before something else. It's similar in a way to what the explanation is for wearing a head covering. When we wear a head covering, a yarmulke, and so on, we are trying to indicate, as great as I am, wonderful, I have a mind and a brain, and etc., there's something over me. Yarmulke indicates that there is an Eibishter on top of me, that as great as my mind is, the Eibishter is above and beyond. The polar opposite of that, or the negative component of that, the Zel Umaza of that is during Avodah Zarah. One of the classic, basic ways of indicating servitude to Avodah Zarah is bowing down. What does bowing down begin with? The bending of the head. The bowing down of the head, meaning I'm making and investing and putting my head into the business, into whatever I believe is the source of where I'm getting my parnasa from. He's sinking in, he's drowning, he's investing his brain in the garments of nature of making a living of the business. So that type of preoccupation, that type of way of investing and putting his brain into the parnasa and thinking that that is where he's getting it, that is called avodah zarah in a subtle form. And this is actually taken from a Maimer Chazal. Chazal say, Yisrael shebechutz la'aretz oivdei avodah zarah b'tarei. Yidden that are outside of Eretz Yisrael, where they're not dependent, that Yisrael is very much dependent on the rain, so therefore they're always realizing that they're not the ones that are going to decide if the crops are going to grow. They always have to daven to the Eibishter for the rain. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, they're oivdei avodah zarah b'tarei. In other words, they're serving avodah zarah, but not in a prohibited manner. What's their service of avodah zarah? They believe and they think that it's my own mind and my own effort and my own labor, etc., that's bringing me the success. So how do we challenge and fix up the avodah zarah, which bedakus is in a subtle manner, it's giving my own mind importance? And how does one repair it? Through work should be done in a way of an automatic way. So up till now, actually, we spoke about all of this, how this is in the physical parnos and the physical work. Now, in starting with tomorrow's shir, he's going to do something interesting, which we've had also in a mimer not too long ago. It escapes me now which mimer it was. But it was also, I think, from Tafshin Yud Beis. I think it was Lyceum Shakela from Shabbos Parsh Mishpatim Tafshin Yud Beis this very same year, where the person's type of work in Avodas Hashem, he also believes is his doing. And he also believes it's something that he is doing it. He doesn't realize that it's really the Eibush. So that's what we're going to discuss, this type of realizing and understanding that's coming all from the Eibush. Any questions?